I have my problem lighting here because whenever you're on location, you're on set, unfortunately, things can go wrong. It's fine. However, the aim is that we are prepared enough to be able to keep going with our shoot. I would say that actually filmmaking, I'm sure the guys in the background would agree, filmmaking photography essentially is a set of problem solving. It just depends on how you deal with it. You could look at exposure as a problem that you need to solve. For example, you bring up your camera to your eye, you look through, and then you decide, is the image too bright or is it too dark? And you solve that problem. You look at your composition and then you decide, is it correct? If it's not, you solve that problem. But those are the kind of creative problem solving that we don't really call problems. However, if your camera dies in the middle of recording, that is a very, very big problem. If you get sick in the middle of recording, that'd be a problem too. Or if you are running exceptionally late on your way to a location with your clients, yes, that's also a problem. So how do you make sure that you are, I'm going to use the term resilient, you're ready, you're prepared for as many of these things as possible. It tends to be that experience is the first factor, but I know that a number of you watching this video may not have the 10, 15, 20 years experience of some that are on the team. So here are some of my top tips. Number one, make sure that you have a backup camera. Anybody who's being paid as a professional should really have some sort of backup camera. If you're fortunate and you're lucky, you have two cameras that are identically the same. However, due to expense, many of us essentially will have one main camera, like Jordan's shooting on a C300 Mark II. I have one. I have a 1DC, which is a 4K DSLR that's there as my backup camera. So if something happens, we can still rock and roll. Do you have backup memory cards? So you may decide that you've got one big memory card, make sure that you've got a second. You need to have seconds of everything that you cannot do without. You may have one lens, but you know, I was shooting in, where was I shooting? I was shooting in Spain. I had the camera all lined up on a slider, and then the slider with the camera rolled to the side. When I was directing my talent, the camera fell to the side and my lens smashed. I was gutted, I was upset, I cried just a little bit. I picked up another lens out of my bag and we carried on shooting, and I carried on smiling, and everything worked out just fine. These things will tend to happen, unfortunately. It's the nature of the job that we're working. If you were a driver for a racing Formula One kind of setup, you would tend to have backups of many things. You know your tyres may burst as you drive around the track. You know that you may lose your front wing. They have replacements. And for us, when we are pushing ourselves as creatives, as a photographer or a cinematographer, things will probably go wrong because we are pushing ourselves a lot. Other things that could go wrong for you on location, it could be that maybe you end up feeling bad. I know if we go to a country like India, or a developing country, or we go into the villages of Africa, we know that one of the things that could happen is we could end up having a bad tummy, all right? Because we're there maybe with locals eating local food cuisine, or it could just be that the water's different, the food is different, and that can have an effect on the tummy. So what we do is we make sure that we travel with things like Imodium. Other brands are available, so that if you do get a bad tummy, you can still carry on rocking and rolling. We make sure that we have headache tablets. We have the basics that we would need, that if we get stuck on location, we can keep going. We have had it before. We're shooting on location, and all of a sudden, one of the crew goes, I have a Delhi belly. It's correct, it's a Delhi belly, because we're shooting in Delhi. But we're in the middle of a location in the field and we cannot get back. And this next shot is really important. What do? Imodium. Other brands are available and we carry on shooting. The aim is to try and be prepared for everything. If you're traveling, do you leave yourself with an amount of redundancy there? For some things, when we're shooting, we make sure that we might leave an hour extra to arrive on location at the right time, even with unforeseen circumstances. If you know that your journey is set to be 2 hours and you must be at the location ready with your famous celebrity talent to start documenting that story, or if your bride is about to walk down the aisle and you know that there's a set time that you need to arrive, Would you leave exactly 2 hours before? No. Would you leave with 5 minutes spare? No. You make sure that you have enough of a buffer there so that you can keep things going and arrive on time. If you arrive early, you relax, you chill out. But the key thing is that your reputation is extremely important. And the reputation you have often depends on how you deal with situations and issues when things don't go according to plan. Team members. Perhaps you need to start making sure that you've got not just the telephone, in fact, I'm going to make sure I do this now. Don't just have your crew numbers on your mobile telephone. What happens if your battery dies? Do you have a backup battery for your mobile phone? And if you don't, and something happens, do you have the telephone numbers organized somewhere else? There's one reason that Chris, who gets involved in our production management and as a producer, makes sure that there is a printed list. Now, Chris, I understand why you print everything out. It's because if the mobile phones go down, we still have everything we need to make that telephone call through somebody else's telephone, or maybe we have to go, Chris, to one of those red telephone boxes that we have here in London and make the call in another way. Just try and think about all of the problems that you may have. It could be that what would happen if you were on location and your trousers ripped and in a very embarrassing place. It's happened to me before. In my van, I tend to have backups of certain items of clothing, so if something does happen, I can still look professional in front of my clients. Be prepared as possible. Get ready to embrace the challenges that you're going to have as a photographer, as a cinematographer. Expect it and make sure you have some plan of action for it. Have fun shooting. Thank you for watching. Please feel free to subscribe and like if you wish to do so. And I'd love it if you could, in the comments below, let us know your thoughts. Give us some of your own suggestions, because this has not been an exhaustive list of ways to overcome issues. I would like to know how you get around issues of production as well, maybe things that you've come up with. And also, if you have any other subjects you'd like us to discuss, leave a comment below.